Today we're here with RajNATION, the founder of Startup Hypeman, which helps fast-growing startups effectively tell their story through visionary pitch decks and demo coaching. RajNATION is an expert in storytelling, and his work has been featured on a number of outlets, including NBC, TED, Forbes, Sales Hacker, and many more. He's also the host of Startup Hypeman Podcast. RajNATION, thanks for joining us today.
So to know me personally is to know that I deeply, deeply care. Like, my driving belief of life is that everyone deserves to have a voice. So that influences and fuels all of my personal and professional pursuits that I put a lot of time and attention into. So what that means and what that has unfolded into over the years is a handful of things, such as being a yoga instructor, being a hip hop artist, being a professional ring announcer for MMA and combat sports. And these are all things that I concurrently do today. And then as well, it influences and drives Startup Hypeman, where, the company I started, and I call myself the chief pitch artist. And all of these different pursuits plus Startup Hypeman are all different ways that I see as my commitment to that belief of helping give people a voice. And the way I'm going about that is through storytelling in its different forms. So with that as the basis, that's why I started Startup Hypeman, and what we're doing with Startup Hypeman, just to expand a little bit on what you had mentioned in the introduction, is, and it's not really much of an expansion, but it's helping growing companies not suck at how they pitch themselves and tell their story.
It's a recent innovative marketing campaign that you have conducted.
I'll call back to something that I did for Startup Hypeman earlier this year, which was I like to blend my different talents into Startup Hypeman. So I mentioned earlier that I'm a rapper, and I will make like business rap songs, and they're not like hokey either. So earlier this year, I actually wrote and recorded and created a music video remixing the song "Stand" by Eminem, if you're familiar with that. And it was called Carl, and it was about a lonely SDR just trying to get a response through all his cold outreach from his favorite prospect. And so we kind of took the story of Stan, but applied it to this SDR who starts losing his mind because he can't get a response. And we created a fully produced music video for that as well. It's a ton of fun to make, and it got really successful. Organic LinkedIn posts, zero paid traffic, anything like that. I think we drove 15,000 views to it. And it was a 6.5 minute music video. The average person was watching it 2 to 3 times. It's hard to get someone to watch a 20-second video, and people were watching 6.5 minutes multiple times. And it drove I want to say $150,000 in pipeline, and it returned a new customer within 10 days. So it was massively successful. And I put that video like that up because I know people might be interested in it, but it's I'm doing it for fun. And I'm maybe something will come out of this, but I'm not going in being I'm measuring against these KPIs. And you know what? The message resonated with people. It made them laugh. So then reaching out to them afterwards and be like, hey, if this made you laugh, you might like what we're doing over here with how we help companies. So it created a really easy segue to generate the lead then out of that.
How do you think your content specifically stood out or was able to accomplish that?
Well, it's relatable, right? So if you go and watch that video and listen to the song, it's a parody, right? But some of the little tropes that I put in there are stuff that, if you're an SDR, if you work in sales in any capacity, it's stuff you've thought about before. It's stuff that you've that has crossed your mind, even if you haven't said it out loud before, when you're really annoyed, you're why hasn't this person responded to my email, right? So I think it spoke to the audience really well. And that's kind of my key thing is you gotta create stuff that your audience is going to care about. And I think it was that paired with the fact that it's just different, right? It's something that you're not used to seeing in your newsfeed. We drafted off of the familiarity and the recognition of the original song "Stand." That helped as well. And I think there's a certain level of I think like genuine nature and authenticity to it as well. Like when I'm creating that, because it's who I am, right? You don't look at that and say, that Raj is really trying to be a rapper. You're just like, wow, he can rap. And I'm not trying to like, I don't want to make that sound like I'm like puffing myself up or anything. I'm just saying like, because it's who I am, I think that's received really well. It doesn't look like I'm trying to um, be something I'm not. And I'm sure you've seen certain videos and content marketing before where you're like, wow, they tried really hard on this. And then what do you get if that's people's sentiment? You get people snickering about it, and you get like pity likes. The last thing I would rather have no likes than get pity likes. I want to also stress again, it's the authenticity paired with really being able to create things that resonate with your audience. So, it was a 6.5 minute video, but it was a 6.5 minute video documenting in an exaggerated format the life of a salesperson. It wasn't a 6.5 minute video saying, I'm Startup Hype Man, buy from me for these reasons, right? I don't think there was a single mention. No, towards the very end, there was like a random mention of Startup Hype Man because it fit in the lyrics. But it's a 6.5 minute video where the goal of the video is not to tell you about our company's offerings. And that's where I think a lot of marketing, and specifically content marketing, falls flat. Is it's like, I'm sure you've seen this, where you're reading a blog post and it's literally just like a promotion for the company instead of just being good, helpful information for the reader.
What is one marketing mindset or strategy that you're getting really excited about for 2022?
Continuation of something that hit me probably 2 years ago. And I think now we've grown a little bit more as a company, and I feel like we've got some more resources at our disposal now to do better versions of it. But like, I have been on this kick, and I think the market's starting to pick up the trend as well overall, of making B2B content more like B2C content. So sure, you can have your ebooks and stuff, and we do those things every now and then. But I look at things like hype retail, right? Like the drops like the drops for the new Yeezy, stuff like that. I look at how people are getting excited about things like NFTs. And admittedly, I don't fully understand why NFTs are, like why something I could copy paste or take a screenshot of is all of a sudden like, worth a lot of money. But like, I look at how people are gravitating to things like that, and I say, okay, how do we make that happen in the B2B world? Or how do we make the sentiment behind that happen in the B2B world? So like, one project that we're working on right now is we're creating a startup mixtape. And that's going to like be a Spotify album that companies can stream on their own. And it's going to be a mixtape that's not 10 songs about Startup Hype Man. It's going to be a mixtape, documenting the life of working at a startup, of founding and running a startup. And my goal with that is I want to be the thing that people choose to play in their car because they enjoy it. Not something that they are like, oh, that's interesting, I'll listen to it once and never go back to it, right? It's beyond novelty act. We're going to create an album that's actually good music. And you know what? It's going to say RajNATION is the artist, Startup Hype Man is the label, whatever you want to call it, right? And so the brand is there, but it's not meant to be a 10-song pitch. So this looking at ways to be a B2C marketer in the B2B world.
Flip side of that, what's maybe one mindset or strategy that you're ready to see end this year?
Kind of probably a little bit more of what I was saying a few minutes ago. The notion of trying to convert everything into a sale into a lead in that moment, right? So I think a really good example of this is look at the vast majority of company LinkedIn accounts. The vast majority of posts on company LinkedIn accounts are essentially like billboards for the company and the product. Like you'll have 10 posts 8 of them will be about some new product release update, product feature update, and it'll be like, schedule a trial with us now, or schedule a demo with us now with a link. The 9th post will be some employee recognition post, which is fine. And the 10th post will be promoting an upcoming webinar. And that's 10 straight posts. 80% of the posts are hoping, because there's no strategy behind it, are hoping that someone's going to see that and in that moment be like, you know what? I was waiting around all day to be told I should take a free trial or I should schedule this demo. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I think the challenge with marketing is being a good marketer takes a lot of skill and discipline. Conversely, it's really easy to be a bad marketer and not even know that you're a bad marketer or that you're doing bad marketing. I mean, you can walk the halls at a lot of companies and the marketing team is doing things, but no one's really being like, hey, is this effective? Is this working? Right? Like, it's crazy how many teams don't actually, like they literally, maybe like LinkedIn is a primary channel for them, but they don't even know like how LinkedIn works. So it's a long-winded answer, but ultimately I want to see marketers step their game up and stop thinking that, again, everything that they put out is supposed to be a direct lead driver in that exact moment that the person sees it. Because all you're doing is just shouting and, again, relying on hope to generate awareness and leads. And I'll tell you, hope is not a strategy.
And by giving you a chance to promote your services, maybe anyone looking to tell better stories for the company and how they can get in touch.
So if that's something that you're thinking about as a company, the markets that we serve are the scaling startups who need a scalable narrative, specifically that their sales team can use day in and day out on their discovery and demo calls. We also work with early stage startups looking to raise capital and helping them figure out the right investor pitch. So if either of those, apply to you. Oh, and we also have started making music videos on behalf of other companies. I should say that as well. So if you are a company that's saying to yourself, we need to stand out, we need to stand apart, then maybe the next part of that sentence should be, maybe we need to talk to Startup Hypeman. So head to startuphypeman.com. I've also got a podcast called Startup Hypeman, the podcast. Whatever app you use to listen to podcasts, you can search Startup Hypeman and it'll show up. And connect with me personally on LinkedIn. If you type in RajNATION, RAJ Nation, all one word, I should show up as the first result.